Good morning and welcome to the BlackUSA.News Donnie Glover Show. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I hope that you are doing well. So today we're going to be talking with a man in the entertainment industry who will be joining us momentarily. Got to tell you, I went to the CIAA last night. Now, big ups to CIAA. For their hospitality. I got down to the convention center, to the Royal Farms Arena. It was a very pleasant experience. Being a journalist in my own city, but this is a national tournament. CIAA, that's the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association. It is not the MEAC. So in this tournament that goes on through Saturday, it does not include 3 HBCUs from Maryland, does not include Morgan, does not include Coppin, nor UMES, but it does include the oldest HBCU here in the state of Maryland, which is Bowie State. And we got a chance last night to speak with Coach T. She's the cheerleading coach for Bowie State, and she broke down the CIAA for the novice, for the person that doesn't know much about the CIAA. I did also learn last night that Fayetteville, if I'm not mistaken, is the #1 seed. Last night I watched VSU beat Cleveland. Cleveland is down in Orangeburg, South Carolina. So the CIAA brings not just a tournament, but a whole new list of names and sources that we got to familiarize ourselves with. So it was a good experience. Can't wait to go back later today. And again, the championship is Saturday afternoon. This is both men and women's basketball. Of course, Baltimore has a lot of basketball history itself, including, and I haven't heard that name in a while. It was mentioned last night, the Baltimore Bullets. Of course, we used to watch them. It wasn't the Royal Farms Arena back then. It was called the Civic Center. So bear with me a second. Make sure we're not having any difficulties, technical difficulties with our guests. Again, you're watching the Donnie Glover Show right here on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Hey, don't see you. Are you signed in? Do you see me on the screen? There you go. Now you're in. All righty. I knew this man knew something about technical stuff. Now you got to unmute your microphone. You got to unmute.
I had you minimized. I didn't see that it went down.
Okay.
Monitors here. All right.
So we're going with the government name today.
Oh no, we can use that. Can we change it?
Yeah.
Hold on, where's it at?
You probably got to go out and come back in. So let me help you out. This technical has so the whole world has changed. The pandemic has changed the way media goes down. So now we're streaming everywhere. And by the way, if you have a show idea, if you think you've got the right stuff to hold down a show on this network, we're looking for intelligence. We're looking for spirit. And that would include hustle. We're a team here, Black USA. I was speaking last night with a couple of our show members out in Oakland, and that would be Doug and Kim, and they have a wonderful show on Thursday nights right here. Chap says we're looking also for honest hosts. Yeah, I thought that was a given, but in this day and time, let's just put it out there. We want honest people with integrity. But nonetheless, this man was building a network long before me the one and only Bou Kahn. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. What's going on? What's going on, man? It's all good, Don.
Tell them about your network.
Well, what I built first was, a team of cats who are committed, to performing opportunities and platforms for our tomorrows and being able to tell our stories in the lights of ourselves. So, outside of me, Bou Kahn, we have our program director, Darnell Coppers, and a cat that I came down to Atlanta with from New York. His name is Anthony Pines, who's the chief engineer. And together, the three of us, with a brother that's still in New York, JR Graphics, he's responsible for all of our treatments and so on and so forth, and the promotional packaging. And we just we were all somehow, some way, some form, some fashion in the entertainment and production game. And as we progress in life, we decide that we just can't stop doing what we do because we do what we do. So we put together a micro full scale facility here in Atlanta, and over the last decade, we put together, I guess, maybe 9 to 12 shows, a couple of movies we shot. We're looking to shoot more movies, and just we just can't stop buying gear and getting other cats to come circulate around us and promote our tomorrows with some technical aptitudes and giving them some inside stuff. So that's what we're doing. So, and we started off broadcasting on Comcast for one night. We went from one night to 3 nights, 3 nights to 5, 5 to 7, and we had slogan at that point where we owned the midnight hour. So we were on at 12 o'clock for a whole hour, in the 20 surrounding counties in Atlanta. And then with this new digital streaming platform, we decided to take it to 24/7 global. So now we're on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick. We're on your mobile. We got a mobile app, mobile device. We utilize the Lightcast transmission medium, and that's what we're doing. We're just having some fun, learning as we go, adapting as we need to, and making it happen for our tomorrows, man.
So you are a New York cat that transplanted down to the ATL.
Born and raised.
Was it a good transition? Do you miss New York City?
Well, I like to say I'm born and raised, and I like to say I surfed the Exodus. And everybody's trying to get out of New York. Oh man, give me 1 second.
Okay. Well, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Bou Kahn. Bou Kahn runs a network in Atlanta. We've done some of our, matter of fact, we did a show there.
Hello?
With Bou Kahn not long ago.
Yeah.
Did we tell them the name of the studio?
Yes. Well, we named our organization. It's called the Specialist TV. And we logoed it as the TST Network, TST Filmwork. And if you go on any one of your mobile devices and the app stores, you could be able to pick up the TST Network and enjoy what we're doing. Right.
So how did you get into this? Is this right? The Specialist TV? I got it, man. Didn't mean that in there. How did you get into this whole entertainment thing?
Well, coming from New York, and again, I like to say I did surf out. It's a mass exodus going on there now. I'm the 11th child of 13 from my parents, and we moved from Harlem to the Bronx in 1964. By 1974, one of my older brothers had purchased a sound system. By 74, I was DJing on the streets of the Bronx. So I pioneered into audio.
In 74?
Yeah, 74, 73, 74. I was like 14 years old, with a sound system, me and my brothers DJing. And it wasn't no hip hop then. We were the disco kings, and we were, into, Latin dancing, touch dancing. That back then it was the hustle. We were doing, I don't know that art form is gone now for young men to be able to put their hand out, ask a young lady to dance, and she'll hold it and say no thank you. And 20, maybe 30, 40 minutes in the party, she'll come run past you. Come on, this is my song. And you start hustling, touch dancing. I don't see that happening in this generation, except for up north where they step. But anyway, about 1974, I started DJing and going to high school and heavily interested in audio and sound. I building sound systems and getting about production. But at the same time, my siblings, we kept ourselves occupied by putting on local theater, and that's what helped me with the sound. Local theater, I'm doing the sound. I did the technical stuff, the sound, the lights, the stage setting. So by 14, 15, I'm heavily involved in production, me and my family. So we used to put on local theater, local shows in the neighborhood. But artists come on, guys singing the old Motown songs. A lot of my partners, we get up, you got to sing, you got to do this, you got to act. So, but I was always shy. So I stood behind the scenes and became more technically involved in the production side. So spring forward, by the late 70s, early 80s, this hip hop thing is coming on board. So I wound up going to school and studying broadcasting. I went and started studying the broadcasting electronics. So I wound up getting the FCC license. I wanted to do radio. And in New York, breaking into broadcasting was, if you didn't have a parent in there, it was all nepotism. It was, we never really got in. But anyway, studying broadcasting, getting my undergraduate studies in broadcasting, and the RF stuff got me involved in. By the time I'm 23, I'm designing and installing public address systems for New York City Transit. So I'm hip hop is coming up. I'm out DJing all over the place, and meanwhile, I'm designing the tower-to-tower communication for the entire New York City Transit Authority at 23 years old. The public address system for the BMT, and I'm up at night, hanging out at clubs and DJing, and in the daytime, I'm running into a whole bunch of people that I was out with the night before, just working the subway system. But long story short, that got me involved in going from RF to fiber optics from a technical aspect. So all of this happened long before there was internet. There wasn't no internet. If you couldn't get nothing on the radio, two-way communication, and or tuning in to a dial station or television, that's what I was doing. So that sprung me into just staying consistent. So when I left New York City Transit, while maintaining the fiber optic division, I came down to the city of Atlanta to MARTA, and I ran their telecommunications and fiber telecommunication, and I secured and absorbed all of their fiber with my guys because nobody was doing it here. So they had fiber that the contractors was putting in, and then they decided to do some television work with maybe 3 CIOs back at MARTA, and they asked me and my team if I can buy some video equipment. So I turned the boardroom for MARTA into a television studio, and me and my guys operated it remote and on location. So I had remote sites going back, feeding back to the control room, and we would just broadcast at MARTA. And so some of the guys that I was working with there, other than Pines that I brought in, we decided to start branching out and doing it ourselves, and we've been doing that ever since. It's been well over 10 years.
I want you to talk to me about the teamwork aspect. We've seen a lot of entities come out of our community, musical groups, scientists, doctors, this, that. But in order to build this network, it wasn't a one-person job.
No.
Certainly you had to do your part, but talk to me about the team.
Well, coming out of I'm gonna give you a little synopsis on me coming out of the city of New York City. In high school, I'm like 5'7", and my best friends were 6'2", and these guys one was captain of the high school ball team, one was captain of Riverside, and nobody never picked me. So whenever anybody would come around the basketball court to play, 12 guys, they would all line up and say, "Okay, let's play a full." And whoever dropped the ball in first, the 2 guys who dropped from the foul line first, would be the captain of the team. And once that happened, I would always have to say next because nobody picked me. But it's okay because, then I would say next. So I had the next game. So I would sit on the side and find out, okay, get two guys to come up. It's three of us already. And I would pick two off of the losing team. And I realized that once we got on the court, we was on there 2, 3, 4 games till we was like, okay, we tired. And what that did, that taught me at an early age to identify talent and build teams. I came down to Atlanta and I kind of like identified some partners of mine who were committed to doing what they do, and I put them. We came together and we just built a team. Teamwork makes the dream work. Together, everyone achieves more. Yeah, and that's one of my strong suits where it's not about me doing anything. It's about empowering others and surrounding yourself with like-minded people with a similar vision. And you're gonna go through your bumps, your knocks, but if you can get past that and you talk them through, it's about team. And no man is an island, and I'm a firm believer in if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you go with a team.
Bou Kahn, I didn't know you would be dropping these kinds of nuggets early in the morning.
Thank you. I just live by simple rules. Simple rules.
Yeah. Tell me about the transition from New York City and going down to Atlanta. Slow down, cowpoke. We don't fix it for you. You fix it yourself.
What I did when I left New York, I came down. I was working for New York City Transit, and I came down to MARTA, and I started working for MARTA on vacation. And I realized that it was, I'm driving around. I'm seeing people driving nice cars. I'm driving through neighborhoods, beautiful homes. I'm like, I'm working with guys up in New York, and this was almost 20 years ago, and they don't even own homes. They making 6 figures. Dude, you didn't have a house. And I didn't understand that. So I come down here, I'm like, these people are living well. So I decided to make the move. I knew that I was, coming from New York City Transit and coming to MARTA, that these guys really weren't technically competent because, they work at a different pace. I never used the term slow, and I had to, coach my partner to not using, oh, y'all slow down here. No, you can't say that, man. They had a different pace. They and we sit back and for some reason, even on Fridays, nobody shows up for work because everybody's, calling in sick. They don't want to work overtime. And even my wife, we dumbfounded to this day. But the deal is, and I said, you know what, people down here are more free than we are than up north. They have a free mentality. No, we don't want to work. They put their time in. They go home. They go home and enjoy their homes. They enjoy their company. They enjoy grilling on the grill and the fruits of their labor. And I'm like, well, coming from New York, I can't make no more money here. I can't deal with this. So we were working 2 or 3 jobs. I'm like, we're killing ourselves, man. It's a rat race. Nobody wins in a rat race. So I'm looking up at New York. I'm like, it's a rat race. I can't get promoted on a job or there's people blocking you. I'm like, come on, it just became overwhelming. And when I came to Atlanta, I was like, I need to be here, and it wasn't for me. I need to bring my kids around a successful and Black folks showing the fruits of their labor. Not everybody lives in the hood. Black folks are living lovely down here. And I'm like, this is Black Hollywood. I'm like, I don't get it. So I go back up to New York and I'm like, 2 or 3 years later, I'm like, I made the best move of my life. Guys come down and they see what I'm doing with this, with my television network. And if I brought that to New York, that's $1 million operation. I can't do that up there.
Why? Why?
Because it's cutthroat. It's competitive. Everybody, it's a grind. And
I heard that they will tax you for your trash.
That too.
You told me they would tax you for your trash. You said you get somebody got their hand out.
That's the mob, right? The carding services, right? All of that, everything. You can't do nothing. You don't have a permit. You can't do this. What are you doing? I'm like, come on. And when I left New York, when I closing on my house and we was finished, I got 2 tickets that day. 2 tickets in one day. I'm like, and my wife was teed off. I'm like, honey, The devil is reaching up for their last grab before we leave because it's a setup, and we just left. Right.
Tell me about some of the people on your team, the indigenous Atlantans. I met, and I don't remember her name, but the feisty young lady from the ATL.
Yeah, one of the hostess when we put together this show called Atlantainment, it's like it's our late night talk show, and we had ran into Deb. Deb was working on another show. Her name is Deborah Rocks, and she was working on a show called Let's Talk with Us, and we realized that Deb had she was sophisticated. She had good quality, a good television persona. You know what I mean? And she was like, okay. And she came down to the control room in the studio, and she looked and saw what we were doing. She was like, wow, I could live here. And we all turned around and looked at her like, oh man, she gets it. She gets it. So we pulled her to the side and said we was looking for somebody who was native to Atlanta, who knew the terrain, who knew the lingo, who had the language, who was sophisticated and also looked very good. Nice looking young, chocolate sister, mahogany. And we said we're looking to put together this show, a late night talk show called Atlantainment. And Deb became, she's been hosting that show for us for about 7 years now. Yeah, Deb Rocks. She's from the east side. She lives out here in Conyers, east side of Atlanta, east suburbs. And it's just been a charm working with her and, supporting her on all the things that she's doing. She teaches broadcasting, the whole nine. So yeah.
How did your family adjust to Atlanta?
Well, I remember when my kids were about 14. My youngest son was like 14, and my daughter, and he was playing around in the subdivision, and the subdivision wasn't even built out, and he was running through the yard, and the bus used to come all the way to the back of the subdivision just for my kids because we were the only ones back here at that time. And I remember my son telling me, he said, I'm glad to be here because I feel like, Dad, I'm in a safe neighborhood. Then I knew I did a decent job on getting them out of the city, where things are going crazy. So I brought them down.
What have you discovered about Atlanta?
That I don't need a coat. No, I'm joking. What I've discovered, I discovered that Atlanta is, it's a homecoming for folks if you're prepared and willing to, prepare yourself. Atlanta is a homecoming. If you're prepared and you're willing to prepare yourself, there's ample opportunities for you to come and live a decent quality of life without fear of, here in the city where I'm at, of racial prejudice. That's all over. There is some, but I'm not overly feared by that. I mean, getting stopped in New York by the police, they're pulling me over. I'm like, well, why do you stop me? Well, your car was impounded. Yeah, I just spent $700 to get it out. So why are you pulling me over? Because I'm driving a brand new truck. You know what I mean? I don't really get that here in the area of Atlanta because everybody's driving decent cars. So what I learned is it's a level of safety. I'm more. Go ahead.
I gotta ask you this, Bou Kahn. What I remember back in '83 when I first got to Georgia, straight out of West Baltimore, I remember the smell of Georgia. It's a lot of trees down there.
Yeah.
It's a more. If you from New York City, that's concrete, that's steel. I'm from Baltimore, not as much concrete, not as much steel, but Atlanta is just straight. It's like a reconnection with nature almost. I mean, just trees everywhere. And boy, they had the biggest mosquitoes I ever saw in my life.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, one of the times when I first came down, and I was in an apartment before we bought the house, I used to sit on the patio and look out at the vegetation, the greenery, and the air. To wake up in the morning, hear the birds, things like that you don't get. Come get up in the morning. There's dew. There's not much grass in New York. There's dew, just dew on the lawn. It's beautiful. Now I wake up on the springtime. You can hear the birds chirping. Look out, see a bunch of squirrels. There's times I see a couple of families of deer running through my backyard, and I'm like, you're so more connected with the natural setting of things rather than putting on your shoes and, like you said, hitting the concrete jungle, down in a tunnel, being shoveled through a railroad system, come out and working for New York City Transit. I saw people's face change as they dropped that coin and that token. They would turn into a different person as you entered the subway system. You can't speak to nobody. There's no eye contact. I get down here. One of the things, everybody wave, hi, how you doing? I'm like, well, how you doing? The hospitality. You come get something to eat. I'm like, nah, man. I'm trying to.
I ain't gonna lie, Bou Kahn, when I go to New York, I don't have good stories when it comes to sharing food. New Yorkers give you a lot of liquor, but when it comes to that food, they come back. Some people come back in the room chewing, and you're like, where the grub at?
But they don't share, huh? No. They go sit in the corner, hide and eat, huh?
Yeah. So another thing about Atlanta that I wanted to ask you about is, you talked about New York. You and I have talked about Black Wall Street in the past, and that's my new book, by the way. I Am Black Wall Street.
Right.
I mentioned your two Black Wall Streets in New York. You got Seneca Village, which we talked about the other day in Manhattan. They tore that down, the eminent domain, Black community, 1828. Brooklyn, Weeksville, 1835. So New York has always been on the forefront of Black progress. How do you contrast that with Atlanta, considered the hub of the civil rights movement? You've kept a Black mayor for 40 years, as DC and some other places, but not to knock New York City. I mean, you got Eric B. Adams as your mayor, a Black mayor. Is that the second Black mayor?
Yes. Well, I campaigned for David Dinkins. But back in the day, I was doing sound reinforcement because I worked with inner city, which was WBLS, which was Percy Sutton owned it. Percy Sutton had ran for mayor in New York at one time too, and he had backed David Dinkins. So my uncle was very good friends with David Dinkins, Percy Sutton. He knew all of these guys because they were all, especially Percy Sutton. They were all World War II vets. He was one of the Tuskegee Airmen. I always mess that up. Percy Sutton, and he owned inner city broadcasting, and there was a serious Black movement in New York, and that gave the foundation for Eric Adams, who is progressive in his own right, coming out of New York as a police officer, retired police officer. I'm sure he went through a whole lot of internal discrimination and trying to just rising in the ranks in the police department.
When he was borough president in Brooklyn, He gave us love. We did the Black Wall Street right there at Brooklyn Borough Hall. I don't know the name of that damn street though. It's the funniest name, and it's just difficult to pronounce. Whatever street that Brooklyn Borough Hall is, I'll find it for you.
White Street, somewhere over there. Yeah. Well, I lived in Brooklyn for 10 years too, and I lived right next door in Crown Heights, and both sides of me were the Hasidic community, and Brooklyn I love it. My wife's from Brooklyn, born and raised. But like I said, we go back there now, and it's like we go for 3 or 4 days. It's not the same. Even Harlem now is totally, it's in the midst of gentrification.
Oh, you mean the Caucasian ladies jogging on Malcolm X Boulevard?
Right, with their dogs.
Starbucks and the Whole Foods.
Right. And I look at folks, I'm like, yo, you spending $3,000 for like a 1-bedroom. I'm like, really? And sometimes we're the only ones from a community perspective who want to hold on and keep it real. White flight will happen in a heartbeat. Whites will get up out of a neighborhood and move in a heartbeat. And they'll profit from that. and reestablish another neighborhood. Really, us keeping it real, and then we hand over these assets to your children who's not prepared for it. Is just a way for them to underball you and get you out. So it's two ways. Do you fight for what, a neighborhood, or a neighborhood is where the people are? It's not, it has nothing to do with any building or construction. It's where the people are.
Okay, this is the name of that street I want you to pronounce. Like Jora Lemon. Jora Lemon. That's what Brooklyn Borough Hall is. 209 Jora Lemon. Yeah. Jora Lemon Street. Just a weird one.
Yeah. I'll jack it up.
Okay, so New York, Atlanta, but there's still some synergy. You still keep the two cities connected. You still do events in New York City.
Right.
I mean,
we've done, folks still there.
Thanks to you, we've done a number of Black Wall Streets honoring, and that's where I want to get into. We're halfway through this whole where hip hop is today. Biggie may have been the most prophetic. They never thought that hip hop would take it this far. The Super Bowl, Sunday, the big game, the halftime show. It was a tribute to hip hop. Were you pleased?
Well, yes. It was good to see hip hop. I mean, for years, hip hop is still coming of age. Where hip hop is about to celebrate its 50th anniversary, I believe, in 2 years. We're about 48, 49, somewhere in that. I'm a little lost with that.
So what would be the starting point? Sugar Hill Gang?
Well, Sugar Hill Gang, it was really not the start. There was a lot of rappers. There was a lot of records being made. Sugar Hill Gang was the first group to get like a international record, a big record deal. But there was guys doing records long
laying the groundwork.
Yeah, you laying the groundwork. There was Jimmy Spicer, Super Rhymes. There was quite a few, acetones going out and guys just releasing their own stuff on independent labels before Sugar Hill Gang, got that deal with the Sugar Hill Records. And so, but it was a growing movement. It was a growing movement, starting in the Bronx, moving to Borough. It was a street movement. Came out of the summer times, and folks coming out with their sound systems on the street. And I never really thought rap was going to make it to where it needed to be, because me growing up as a young guy, 14, 15, I was like Huey on the Boondockers. You know what I mean? I was fight the power. And I look and I laugh at how folks say woke. Woke is a curse word today. I was woke in the 70s. I'm like, what's the opposite to woke? Sleep. I'm like, so how could you make somebody being up a curse word? And until hip hop became till Melanin came out with the message, that's when I knew hip hop was on the right path. Where that led into the 80s of hip hop, speaking truth to power, like the message. You know what I mean? It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder. Now you talking the reality. You know what I mean? What's happening out here? Folks are be living in poverty. Then I knew that we're on the right path. So we fought diligently from a hip hop perspective with groups like X-Clan, the Zulu Nation, where we started wearing leather medallions and red, black, and green. And then Queen Latifah coming up with kufis and all of this type stuff, where self-destruction, with that merger with all of these the prominent rappers at the time come and do a collaboration. That was hip hop, young blacks, men, women, young and old, young, speaking truth to power, telling it like it is. And it was good to see that happen at the Super Bowl, and it's good to see that it's even crossed boundaries, where Eminem was, up there. So it's not like it's a black thing. It's a humane, thing. And he's the only one that took a knee. Why did he take a knee? You can't take. He took a knee. You know what I mean? Which was good. I'm like, power to the people, not the people in power.
I have earned a great deal of respect for Eminem.
Mm-hmm.
He's always thinking.
Right.
It does make you wonder, what were the brothers thinking? or taking a knee. For him, that was a priority.
Right. I remember my brother was Eminem's sound guy, and I'm working in New York, and he called me, yo, I'm in New York. We're doing Eminem's Grammy party. All right, cool, because we was all part of this sound deal. He moved out to Cali and kept it going on the hip-hop portion. So I go to this building somewhere in New York, and I get in this elevator off the street, go off the 47th floor. The doors open up, and it's like this skyscraper on the 47th floor. This huge restaurant. Well, folks who had money, you had to know how to get to this restaurant. So Eminem had his Grammy party in the cigar room in this restaurant, and I'm in there, and the brother wasn't even looking at nobody. He was just walking around like this, rapping. I'm like, and this had to be well before 9/11. He's walking maybe not 2002 or 3, somewhere in that area, a while ago. And he's rapping, talking, rapping, and I'm looking at him, while I'm enjoying his Hennessy and eating his lamb shanks that they kept bringing around. I'm like, these lamb shanks cost a lot of money. I love lamb shanks, the little hooks, right. And I'm like, he was dedicated and practicing his craft, and he had everything around him just shut out. So I'm like, this guy is committed, and the fruits of his labor and his dedication to the craft is outstandanding. And I'm glad to see the brother do what he does, man. I call him a brother. Some folks call him the N-word. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the few guys that they call that. He's honorary. You know what I mean? I don't think he used the term, but a lot of folks. I saw Mike Tyson calling him the N-word, but it's all good. If anything, he can understand and feel, because he's from and he comes from an impoverished background as well.
So one of the things that I'm wrestling to understand these days is how far we as a community allow rappers to speak for the rest of us.
Well, I'm kind of lost. What do you mean? How?
Malcolm X said, entertainers will never be our leaders. So when I see recently there's talk about Jay-Z and the NFL, and apparently some people had some expectations that he would be able to negotiate some type of deal there. Or I'm looking at the Jay-Z again in the election when who was it? Hillary Clinton signed him up to push her campaign, or however that worked out. Or when I see social issues, the different murders, and then there's how far should we go as a community? For instance, in your household, I can already tell you, your daddy had 11 kids. He was running that household. Hollywood wasn't running your household, but we've gotten to a point now where rappers, there's this one couple out there with a gender fluid conversation about their baby. When did we stop thinking for ourselves, Bou Kahn?
Well, I mean, entertainment and art are tools to represent and display and depict social conditions, negative or positive, and they're tools designed to stimulate thought, and expose issues, good or bad. And I never look as any entertainers and actors or whatever to be the spokesperson for any community at all. I mean, and you're just using a reference back in the 60s, I hear Aretha Franklin had funded a whole lot of the movement, some of the prominent actors at the time.
Harry Belafonte.
Yeah. Harry Belafonte, they did a lot of things in the background to see to it that the leaders were sponsored and supported to speak, again, for them, knowledgeable folks, to speak truth to power, because that's their position. And from a hip hop perspective, I see it the same way. I don't want the number one quote rapper today is Kanye West. I don't really listen to these guys' music because I really can't hear it, but I can't see him speaking in terms of of our community neither. How's he going to speak it with the red hat on, make America great? You know what I mean? So I don't think that's right. Right. I mean, it's quite a few of them. I mean, looking at Little Nas X's demographics as 12-year-olds.
This is the rapper with the dress.
Yeah. And the video, with him lap dancing the devil. I'm just saying. And this is what our kids are being exposed to. Hip hop and speaking truth to power, it's all under assault. It's been under assault for a while. The voices of young, Black men and women who are going to confront verbally and artistically, conditions unacceptable are being snuffed and being.
So this is where I'm going with this. When I see Dre, Dr. Dre, I see Snoop, I see these iconic people who made careers, who made fortunes using their craft. But then I'm thinking back to when the topic of historically Black colleges and universities came up. And I remember, I think it was Dr. Dre, he gave this huge donation to a non-Black school. And it just made me wonder, did anybody pull dude's coattail? Or maybe HBCUs were not a part of his orientation, a part of his growing up. I'm just saying, we've reached a point where we've made incredible amounts of money, but where's our common sense? And this is what I'm saying. We make a lot of money, but do we own anything? Do we control anything? Do we produce anything? Or are we still no different than entertainers from the early 1900s or the late 1800s, tap dancing and hoping somebody take care of us and dying broke?
I believe both. In both, it's a combination of both. You have some, for the most part, most of these entertainers, I mean, when you look at a young kid today, there was a time, me growing up, and you ask a kid who may have been 7 or 8 years old, what do you want to be? And it was a profession. It was a profession. I want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a writer, a fighter, a pilot, engineer, an electrician.
Nobody said they wanted to be a rapper.
Right. Today, you go to the schools and ask these kids what they want to be.
Everybody wants to be a rapper.
Right.
And the girls too.
Right. Right. So where are we?
And I'm cool with that. But do we own anything? Or are we still the worm on the hook? When are we going to own the fishing rod? How much money does it take to produce a record, Bou Kahn, and own it? I mean, when I look at Anita Baker struggling to get a master's, big bro, help me out. I'm trying to understand this. We are the talent. But it's like somebody, what they say in the Malcolm X movie? Hey, get your hand out of my pocket.
Right. The world is a plantation, man. They've mastered it throughout the centuries with us, and they're at a point where
I'm tired of people getting paid off of us making videos about me shooting you or you shooting me. What in the hell is going on? Clap, 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 Bou Kahn, busting the cat, bop, 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 bop.
Well, but that's part of the infiltration of hip hop and removing the voice of, the speaking the truth to the power. So there's dark forces on glamorizing the killing of brother on brother violence. There's movements behind.
Do white people make music like that?
No, there's music behind the whole demasculating of the black male image. It's strategic. It's forces designed out there set to do that, to destroy, to continually to destroy, the black male influence, the core black, family, all of that, and it's present. I mean, we can see that, but we actually, you look at your grandkids, I got granddaughters who come and tell me like, "Oh, I'm asexual." I'm like, "You ain't never had sex." What do you know about being? You're 11 years old. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm asexual.
Why? When are we going to get it? And it goes down to politics too. I know in Virginia, which was at one point heavily Democratic, they made it okay to teach sex education. And my problem is not sex education. My child's about something that's none of their damn business.
Right. My take is just like anything else. In the 80s, they locked up all the crack epidemics, the crack addicts during the crack epidemic. Now we have the whatever they're using, and it's all white folks. Now they're sick. And what they do with us, we just happen to be the front runners on the destruction and the degradation of humanity. And the ripple effect will be us being at the back and cleaning up all of their act. Even like now, what's happening overseas in Europe, if we leave them to themselves, they would destroy themselves and kill each other. And and again, just like how the Moors had to come in and civilize folks the barbarians, again, we will be in that position because, we think clearly and unselfishly.
So what's the goal for TST Network as we wind down? What do you need? I hear you want people from all over to come to Atlanta and to do a show on TST Network.
Or send it and we could clear it on TST Network. You know what I mean?
So you have television opportunities available.
Right. Television opportunities available. We could, if you're in or near the Atlanta area, give us contact us, and we'll be able to sit down and put together a package for you. We could go from concept to production and clearing, and airing it on a global platform, global digital platform. And that's
I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Mr. Robert Scott, my Morehouse brother, for making the connection. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank you for, I've met some people through you, including Rodney C.
Yeah. Rodney Stone.
Yeah, it's nothing to get a phone call from Rodney Stone, say, "Hey, I'm gonna be in Baltimore." What it is, set it up, make it happen.
Yeah.
And this is Angie Stone's former husband.
Right. And he was the first rapper to do Saturday Night Live back in 1979, I believe.
Boo, here's my final question for you. When is your book coming out? I'm so tired of you iconic cats with all kinds of history, all kinds of stories. You could do a book alone on the different equipment, how equipment has changed over the past 40 years. You remember the days of a CB radio, but now we got, smartphones and I can only imagine what kind of book. And I still will never forget you telling me about Guido coming around trying to tax you for the trash. You told me that was enough. I'm out of here. Get up out of here.
Right. I'm trying to find an angle to write it from. You know what I mean? I'm not an artist, or I have been, but it's crazy. I'm trying to find an angle. There's an untold story. And that's what I told Rodney C too. Everybody talk about the rappers, the early hip hop, the break dancers, the graffiti artists. And then I'm like, well, Rodney, what about the geeks? Hip hop would never have had it if we didn't have a couple of black geeks, young kids who putting wires together, getting shocked and making it happen, connecting to telephone poles.
Right? I got a profound question for you. What's the difference between rap in the North and rap culture in the South?
Well, it's pretty hard for me because at this point, I really don't listen to much of that. Nothing, none of that, except
I
old
mean,
school.
but you grew up with the whole New York influence. But in the South, I didn't know it at the time, but it's a whole different world there.
Well, one of the reasons why they moved a lot of the major deals from rap in New York was because the brothers were shaking down the record companies because they knew that the record companies was robbing. So they would walk in there, put the gun on the table, say, yo, let me open up the books. Where's my money? You know what I mean? And it was like, so if the fear factor moved it out because these guys, you got, lawyers and accountants knowing that you're being ripped off, and they were going in there. So they moved it out and they brought it down to the South where it could be more, just how could I say this? Less political. They were happier to give them a little bit. Your money stretched more down here. So instead of giving somebody 10 million in New York, you give a guy $1 million down here and he can live lovely. He buy a house and so on and so forth, and song and dance, the minstrel show, you know? So you really, I don't really know of any real rappers who coming out of the South who was like really like a Tupac, speaking truth to power. You know what I mean? Right. So where are they? So that's the difference.
Good stuff. Bou Kahn, how can people get in touch with you? I better cut it here because we could go on for hours. But how can people get in touch with you? What can they do to be a part of TST Network? Or if they just want to learn how to grow, how to move from New York to Atlanta and keep a happy smile on their face and their white face?
Well, you can contact me. Yeah, everything is all social media now. I mean, you could go get to IG, tstnetwork.net, tstnetwork.net at Gmail, Specialist TV. You can you Google us, you find us, you can pick us up, find a number. They're all over the place. Email us and contact us if you're interested. You're coming through this way. If you're an artist, you want to if you got want a promotional package, you're coming through the Orlando region, you're doing your mini tour, contact us. We put an interview, put you up, give you an interview, show your video, the whole nine, or give us a live performance.
Oh yeah, have you been out to Stonecrest, this new Black Wall Street in Atlanta?
Yeah, I did go. I walked through the facility. I went there with my wife, and it's a great concept. It looks like it has potential. They just need to get a few more vendors in there, and I'm sure that the traffic will pick up. It's just like, it's across from the Stonecrest Mall. It's the old Target facility, and it's pretty huge. It's huge in there. So,
it's very inspiring to us in other parts of the country to see all of this progress. Not just, Tyler Perry's studio now has a rival. I understand from a Black Enterprise magazine article, there's a new Black woman with a studio down there. I think of Stacey Abrams. I can't wait to see the Specialist TV's political coverage in this race for governor of this well-loved, well-respected Black woman, Stacey Abrams. I might move to Georgia just to get on her team because I love what she did. She changed the game in Georgia.
Right. We're trying to figure out what's the best angle for us to support Stacey. From a business perspective, me and the whole team work out of City Hall. You know what I mean? So, long story. We went out to lunch. We was having breakfast one day, and they was having the Mayo campaign, and I forget her name. The woman who was running against the young man who won, right? Came in the restaurant. I'm like, no, we got to get over to City Hall because we're putting together the transition facility for the new mayor. So it was crazy. So they campaigned right there in breakfast by us, and we're like, yo, you're not even the winner. We're not even voting for you. But we didn't say that to the lady. I forget her name. But we went to the City Hall to put together the transition room for the incumbent. And that was fun. It's just crazy. I like Atlanta, man. Our fingers on the pulse down here, man.
I love Atlanta too, man. Big ups to Morehouse. Bou Kahn, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. You've inspired some people. Trust and believe you've inspired some people, and you certainly have inspired me. And thank you also. Your place might have been the first place I've ever gotten Southern hospitality. Man, they told me when I go to Georgia, I get these big old breakfasts and I get invited to dinner. Man, they was as tight as my family in Brooklyn. Until I found a beautiful restaurant, and then I fell in love.
Yeah.
Shout out to
good eateries. Thank you, boss.
My name's Donnie Glover. Stay tuned for William Honolulu. He'll be here at 10 a.m. Good morning, world.